My name is Eric Winterville-Luce. I am the project manager for the ISA. I'm project manager for the ISA as well as the project manager for a number of projects in the School of Biological Sciences, specifically technical projects. And I'm your host today and your trainer today, although we do have some members of our ISA work group here who will also be listening in and perhaps answering some questions when we get to the Q&A section at the end. Hopefully everyone is doing okay and that the post-lunch crush is not hitting you too hard. I'll do my best. I'm definitely feeling it a little bit. So if I am a little bit scattered, feel free to just ask for questions or clarification. We're really today going to focus on the cross-enrolled feature set that was just released a couple weeks ago. So cross-enrolled classes, that's our umbrella term that we're using for cross-listed, conjoined, and eventually co-scheduled classes. So in most cases, cross-listed is what's going to be relevant here, but I know some of you may have some older course approvals that are still showing up as conjoined. We are not yet supporting co-scheduled. There's extra layers of complexity there, and we want to really make sure that our functionality for classes that we can verify through course approvals via cross-listed and conjoined links are really well validated through you all using it for at least one scheduling term, probably two scheduling terms before you come back through and try to fully support the co-scheduled side of things. I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we are going to get started. All right. I'm in the QA environment, so but Matt, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to break your schedule at all. But so here I am, sort of I'm ready to start building my classes. And I'm really just going to give a tour of all these features. So again, just hop in with something in chat if that would be helpful, and I will try to address it, or I'll let you know that I'm planning on getting to it later on in. So most of you start at your annual schedule builder, and there's a couple of just quick features I want to add here or highlight here. One is we now have a filter for cross-enrolled courses. So we click on it, then everything that we can validate as being a cross-enrolled course via the loads that we get from the data warehouse will show up. So that's also identified here by these little flags. These little flags should be present everywhere now where you would see these sorts of flags around class level, whether or not a course is approved or temporary, if there's any sort of administrator notes, those sorts of things, as well as the course approval, the version of the course. In this case, this is the winter 20 forward. So that's one thing that you're able to filter on. These filters will exist on pretty much every view that cross-enrolled, being able to sort by or filter by cross-enrolled classes would be beneficial. But I really want to kind of go through what it looks like to actually schedule something that is cross-enrolled. So let me go ahead and start out. So if you're just hopping in here and you're just creating something straight, so I've filtered by cross-enrolled. So now if I were to add any of these classes, then what's going to happen is I'm going to have a slightly different set of features here. So I'm going to select my primary instruction type. I'll leave this all set. I can do projected enrollment if you use projected enrollment. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it. And then here, you can see it's going to show me my class that I'm scheduling as well as the linked class. The reason this matters is because what's going to happen when I click create class is it's going to create a offering of SIO 134 in this case at the same time on the SIO schedule. And then these two classes will be linked within this term, these specific offerings. So I'm going to make myself the lead in this case because I'm functioning as though I'm School of Biosci. And I'm going to create the class. Do that in a moment. Sometimes our QA environment is a little bit slow. There we go. Save class. There we go. And then There's some really basic stuff here. So this is all normal, but this crown icon is now new. And that's basically, it's showing me that I am, if I just from a glance, I can see that I am the lead unit. To compare, here is a class where I am not the lead unit, which basically just, we do both color as well as iconography. We're trying to move away from purely color coded information there, just because we do want to make sure that we're being more accessible. And so that's just the basic, how do I add it to my schedule? There's obviously a lot more details we need to go through, but there are other ways that you can add it to your schedule. And one of the most important ways that I would imagine many of you use is the copy schedule functionality. For those of you who may have missed it, about a year ago, we significantly updated our copy schedule functionality. So it's no longer requires a whole academic year to be completely empty. You can now copy from term to term, and you can copy from into a term that's not empty. So in this case, I'm going to say select fall 23, and I'm going to select now winter 24. My list of terms that I can copy into here is determined by what working year I have selected. So if I had a different working year selected, then those target terms would have been different. And here, I've got all these options, just like you would normally have. I have this additional filter. I want to show only items that are cross-enrolled. In this case, I don't have any classes that were cross-enrolled in fall, but it's going to allow me to do that sort of thing. Let me actually pick a different source term. So let's say I want to go from winter instead, and I want to go to spring, because I know I have cross-enrolled classes here. So now I'm going to do only cross-enrolled. Now you can see here's all my classes that are cross-enrolled in winter that I want to copy into spring. So I just created BIEB 134, so I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I want to copy this into spring. So I'm going to go and click on copy. There's no conflicts, otherwise it would have brought up a little warning screen. And we're just going to wait for that copy to finish. So there we go. I'm going to go back into my annual schedule builder. And now you can see this copy of BIEB 134 is now there's now a copy in spring. And what you'll see is we're not defining who the lead unit is when we copy something. We kind of went back and forth on this, and we elected that it was better to not make any assumptions because it's relatively straightforward to assign the lead unit after the course has been created. Sorry, after the course offering has been created. So that's the easy way to do it. So for those of you who use copy schedule, definitely please still use it. There's a lot more utility there. I'm not going to go into depth on that utility, but as soon as I create any new class that has that we know to be cross-listed based on the course approval, cross-enrolled based on the course approval, when we create it, it will do this linking automatically. So when I added this, I also added it for SIO. So if I go hop into SIO, I'm going to see SIO 134 to be now in winter and spring of 24. And I'll go ahead and do that just so you can see it. And there we go. And so you can see here, SIO is not the lead because BioSci is the lead as I created it. And then this one, there's no lead assigned yet. So say I'm SIO and I see these things appear on my schedule, that's going to be why these appeared, is because in this case, Bio was the one who created those classes, in this case manually, in this case via copy schedule. What that does mean is if you copy your whole schedule, and so if I'm SIO and I copy my whole schedule and then Bio also copies their whole schedule, you're going to get two different offerings of the same course. And then it's going to be up to the two of you to reconcile, in this case, SIO and Bio, which offering are we going to keep of this 134 course in this case? And then one of them needs to get removed and the other one doesn't. One of the things we want to make an important note of here is, let's say, in this case, bio has already sent out ISPs because they are going to be lead and they're the ones who are running the instructor. Then SIO should be the one to remove their copy of the course, if that makes sense. So that way you don't lose the ISP information. So if you delete a class or delete a course offering, the associated ISP data with that will also be deleted. So that's the one important caveat when you're coordinating with your colleagues. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, just drop in chat if it doesn't. However, we can run into some special situations. And the special situation that's going to be most prevalent, particularly over the next couple of years until everyone is, basically those of you who have planned ahead in the ISA, either for the rest of this academic year or even into next academic year, where you've already put your classes. We cannot know for sure if there are multiple course offerings across multiple units, which of those are supposed to be linked. And so I'm going to show you an example of what this looks like, where units have gone ahead and they've started to fill out their ISA schedule ahead of time. So they maybe have filled out the entire academic year for 23-24, and we didn't release this functionality until 2 weeks ago. And we wanted to make sure you had a way to get those classes linked. So I'm going to go ahead and have one of my ISA workgroup members share their screen. Robert, can you go ahead and hop into the ISA and share your screen? And then I'll walk you through the process on how to get those things linked. All right, so here Robert is looking at his actual ISA schedule, not in QA. And you can see here he has 2 cross-listed classes. And I believe these are both cross-listed, not conjoined. One is History US 113, and the other one is History US 123. Now you can see History US 123 already has that crown next to it. And that's because that class has already been linked. History is the lead unit. Everything's working the way it's supposed to. But if you look at History 113, it doesn't have a crown. And in fact, if we were to, I'm going to show you this really quickly. If we hop into the quarterly preview really quickly, Robert, and let's go to winter up at the top. All right. Yeah, you can scroll down to 120, 113, I think is what it was. There we go. You just hover over the validation errors, where that 2 with the exclamation point is. So you're going to see that the validation is showing that one or more of the cross-listed classes is missing. So the ISA knows that, hey, there's supposed to be another class. And in this case, I believe it's Ethnic Studies 134. If you can hover over that little flag with the cross-listed above, it'll tell us. Yeah, Ethnic Studies 154. So there's not a linked group. And so in order to fix this, if you go and click onto class details, you can go to it from here. You can go to it from the annual schedule builder. So if you look in that link class details section, you can see it's telling you, it's cross enrolled, but we are missing a linked class. So what Robert's going to do right now is he's going to go ahead and create the new class group link. And what that is doing, go ahead and click on Save Class Details. I believe that worked correctly. And now go ahead and go back to your annual schedule builder. There we go. So now that link is there. And so because Robert clicked on that link, what happened is now he's created a linked class group, and that Ethnic Studies 154 is going to show up. And I'm going to actually show you that on their side of the schedule. So this is actually their schedule. I'm not going to make any changes. So right now I haven't refreshed the page, but as soon as I refresh this page, you're going to see it show up right here. And there it is. You can see they are not the lead unit now. And that makes sure that, so when he clicked that link, because what it did is it created this version, this course offering, ethics studies class, and then linked it together with his version. So that's a way, if you have gone ahead and you've already started planning out parts of your schedule, you are able to still create those linked groups, and then it means that you'll pass validation and be able to submit your schedule to the registrar. In order to submit your schedule to the registrar, the linked groups must exist. So if you have an offering, it's going to show up as a validation error. Errors block submission. Warnings allow you to submit, but this is not one that's going to allow you to submit. So I'm going to go ahead and hop out of production for now, go back into QA. I'm going to hop back into biological sciences. Excuse me. I'm going to start showing you some more of the feature set. All right, so I'm back in BioSci. So right now I'm only listing my classes that exist and that have Crossing listed. So here I have this one that I copied in, and so it didn't create a lead unit. So I can go into all class details. You can also access that through the quarterly preview or the QSB by clicking on the details button. And then what I need to do is I can change the lead unit here. So I can set myself or SIO, depending on who's appropriate, as the lead unit. I can also do that here from the ASB. There's the option where I can directly change the lead unit for this specific offering. So in this case, let's say I'm going to set SIO because it's a helpful comparison. Actually, I think I'm just going to stick in winter quarter. So here I have one where I'm the lead, and here I have one where I'm not. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hop out of this ASB view, and I'm going to hop into the quarterly preview, which is where I tend to build from. I'm going to go and create the filter. I only want to see cross enrolled. And I'm going to close. So now I'm only looking at my cross enrolled classes. All the usual validations work. So I'm missing a discussion section. I haven't set an enrollment limit. So those are things I'd have to do. I'm not going to focus on those sorts of things right now. So we're not going to worry about those. I will show you some of the new things that exist with this feature set. So I am the lead for this class, for BIEB 134. So I'm going to hop in here, and it's going to, because I'm the lead unit, I'm able to work with this basically as I would normally. So let's say I don't actually know if this is the right person. I'm just sort of adding someone. So I can add an instructor, I can delete an instructor, I can change primary, secondary instructors, etc. I can go in here and I can add my class components. So let's say I'm going to add my secondary component, which in this case is going to be my discussion. I have to add an enrollment limit. So let's say I'm going to make it an enrollment limit of 10 or something like that. And I'm going to create like 5 of these. Right, works like normal. Production won't be this slow. And if it is, we'll look into it because that would be some sort of error. I'm going to go ahead and set an enrollment limit here. Let's say I'm going to set it at 40, which I know is wrong and all of you know is wrong, but I'm interested to show you some of the new stuff. But there's this whole new tab here, which is called linked class enrollment limits. So I'm going to click on it as the lead unit. And it's going to show me the full array. So here I can see mine. Here I can also see SIOs. And then there's this thing called overall limit, which we'll talk about. And then these enrollment limit sums. And so you'll see that there are sums happening both on the vertical and the horizontal. And this is very important. This is one of the things that some of you are probably pretty familiar with. You're used to, understanding the overall limit which applies to the whole group of classes, as well as this idea that all of your discussions, for example, in this case, the enrollment limits for all these discussions and the enrollment limit for your primary section need to be equal. So in this case, it's telling me, hey, the sums here are 50, but your actual enrollment limit here is set to 40. That's an error. This will prevent you from submitting to the registrar. So this is something that will have to be corrected. So what this lets me do as the lead unit is I can set my own enrollment limits. I can't set SIOs, they get control over what theirs is. And then I can set what's called the overall enrollment limit, which means the total number of seats that are supposed to be available across everything. And this is particularly important, right? Because this is the size of the room that the registrar is going to use to schedule this section in. And the room capacity needs to account for both BIEB 134 and SIO 134 together. All right, so in this case, I know I need to change this to 50 to make it match. In this case, let's assume I'm going to give SIO 50 seats, and I know that this is supposed to be 100. Sorry. This should be 20, 20, 20, 20. Let's say I do something silly like 10. So I'm going to save all of that. All right. And we can see here, my class is fine as biosci. SIOs is not fine because they don't have an enrollment limit yet for their A00, their lecture section. So the SIO is actually not going to be a submit until they go and fix that. My overall limit is probably going to be fine once SIO fixes theirs, but it does tell me that there's an error, right? That little pop-up tool so everyone can see it. And then here, there's also a mistake. And I'm going to go and be like, oops, I made a mistake. I wasn't paying attention. I set that as 10. Let me go change it and we fix it to 20. So if I'm the lead unit, I need to make sure these overall limits make sense. And then I also need to make sure to coordinate with any other units that are part of this class grouping. So in this case, it's only SIO, but some of you, like, there's at least one class that has 7 different units who are linked. So there's going to be a lot more coordination there. The ISA isn't meant to replace the communication. It is just meant to make it easier and for there to be sort of this shared view that everyone can see to make sure everything's adding up the way it's supposed to be. So all of these things I can do as the lead unit, right? As a lead unit, I can always set my own. I can set the overall enrollment limit. I can do class components. I can do instruction types. I can change instructors. I can add meeting times. Sorry, I can add meeting times, whatever they're supposed to be. Say I want campus space for this one. Okay, this is probably an issue, a performance issue. I'm gonna refresh. And then, you know, we can choose department space or campus space or whatever for all of the individual sections. So I can do all those things as lead unit. But if I'm not the lead unit, let me bring up my filters again, cross enrolled. Get into winter again. All right, so BIM 184, you can see the lead unit here is bioengineering. If I hover over the details, I can see who the lead unit is. So if I go into here, you can see that I can't change most of these things. Only the lead unit is able to set most of these things. I go to class instructors, I can't set it. I go to class components, I can't add components. I can't do any of these component utilities like regenerate code, swap codes, any of that stuff. I can click on edit. So let's say I'm going to hop in here and I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to go and look at enrollment limit. And enrollment limit is the only thing that I am able to edit here. Because every unit, right, gets to say, you know, this is how many seats I need out of this cross-listed class in this case. So if I am bio in this case and bioengineering is the lead, and I need 200 seats, then I'm going to set it as 200 seats. If I hop into here, right, I can see I've got all 4 of the link classes. And if I go to edit components, I'm able to edit everything of my own. You can see there's actually an error here. So I would need to fix mine at the very least. I save changes, right? Everything's fixed, but I'm going to set that back for now. Right, so there's still that error. I go back into class components, and I actually forgot to highlight this. I click on edit. Something's not adding up correctly. Let me check on this. This is supposed to show the actual sum, but it is not showing the actual sum right now. It's actually a bug. All right, let me log this bug. This is sometimes the joy of going over things with all of you is we catch things that we missed. It should say 180 because the sum of these sections is 180. For whatever reason, it's showing us 200. I'm wondering, it's gonna. Okay, yeah, it's pulling from the wrong spot. So I bet if I click on save again, I'll go back in here. Yeah, okay, so that's a bug. We'll get that fixed. That'll be fixed in time for all of you to be finalizing your schedules. Anyways, the point I really want to make here is that if I'm not the lead unit, which I'm not for this specific offer, for this specific cross-listed group, then the only stuff I can edit is enrollment limit. I can't, and it's only for my sections. I can't edit anything else if I'm not the lead unit. But let's say maybe the unit who is lead unit isn't communicating in the way they need to, or you've like emailed them, or someone's on leave, or there's a transition of responsibility or something like this, and you know, I as biosci need to like pick up the slack for whoever happens to be in bioengineering. Maybe, like I said, maybe they're on leave, maybe there was, you know, someone changed roles and someone didn't know how to use the ISA or anything like that. Well, I don't have to wait on bioengineering necessarily. I mean, obviously, please communicate to people. This option doesn't preclude communicating with your colleagues. I can switch it over to biosci, and I can change lead unit, and then I can go make the changes that the group needs. So in this case, bioengineering, CSE, Chem, and us. And I can go make the adjustments that are needed. Maybe, okay, we're going to put one of our instructors in. In this case, it is one of our instructors. But yeah, I'm going to, you know, we need to go tweak something on a day and time or a location or anything like that. I can go do those things and be like, hey, bioengineering colleague who's brand new to the ISA, I'm helping you out here. I'm going to set it back to you, you know, so that you can go and do the things you need to. But yeah, so you have the ability to change the lead unit, even if you're not the lead unit. I would say that's more so for not uncommon circumstances, but we really want to make sure that you have the flexibility to still move forward with your scheduling needs, even if one of the units that you're trying to offer a class with is for whatever reason less available than they need to be. So that way you don't get held up on submitting your schedule. Okay. So we talked about one of the errors that you could see if you're missing a class detail or missing a linked group. One of the other errors you can end up seeing is this error that we talked about where your enrollments, your section enrollments don't match your primary section enrollment, right? So the sum of all of those things don't match. So that's going to show up here as a new class validation warning. That's something that we really want to make sure that you are all paying attention to. It's not specific to it's not specific to this this feature, but it was important that we had it implemented as part of this feature, because it would be strange for us to only enforce these rules on cross-enrolled sections when it's a rule that should have been enforced on all sections all along. So second, I'm hunting for my notes, and if I can find them. Oh, just a sec. I'll pause my share. Okay. Okay, I should talk a little bit about summer before we finish, because there's some changes there. Okay, yeah, there's some other complexity that I'll probably talk about with some special cases. All right, we're doing good on time. So again, just a reminder, we have these filters available on all the views. So let's talk about summer. I know it feels a little bit early, but it'll be here soon enough. So same situation. Only show cross-enlisted courses, cross-enrolled courses. You can see here I don't have a crown. That's a good signal to me that I haven't done everything I need to do here. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to hop into class details, and I'm going to set my a sec. I'm going to refresh. Something's being a little strange. It's interesting. Let me drop a note for that really quickly. That may be a bug. What's supposed to be here is there's supposed to be the button to create the linked group, but it says it's linked, which it doesn't think that it is. So I bet if I go into SIO, it is not showing as linked. See, this is the fun of using the ISA sometimes. You can see even the PM be like, why is this not working? Yeah, there's definitely not a linked class. Okay, I think that's a bug I found. Okay. I'm going to show you. So basically, the summer session schedule builder works exactly the same as the ASB. There's really no difference. So in terms of adding classes, copying classes in, the crown versus not the the different versions of the crowns. I'm going to go ahead and just stay in summer session 1 since these created correctly. There's a few things I'm going to go ahead and cover. I'm going to go ahead and create a couple extra classes here. Oops, cannot have discussion as my primary section. I'm going to set myself as the unit on 1. And then I'm going to do another one one here. Showing correctly. Do another one here. And I'm gonna not set myself as lead unit. All right. Okay, so let's say I've gone and done this. I'm treating it exactly like I would the ASB, quarterly preview, same thing. You're just dealing with a different session. So I'm getting to the point of, oh, well, I can't send a summer session. Let me go to a future year. I'm outside my working year right now. Okay, well, I'm just gonna work in this working year. All right, so here I am, send a summer session. Here I'm not lead unit. Here I am lead unit. Those are the only two I have. So when I click on send to summer session, it's going to take into account whether I'm the lead unit or not, and whether or not I have any cross-listed classes. Here, let me. So here I've got more things scheduled than just my cross-listed classes, just so you can see. So I only care about cross-listed right now. So I'm going to send a summer session. And there's going to be a few things that show up in here. So I've got this whole list of things, but then I've got this weird one here where I've got this BIEB 134 and it's got this little X next to it. And the reason I won't be sending this to summer session is I'm not the lead unit for this class. When summer session approves for scheduling across enrolled class, it does so based on who the lead unit is, if that makes sense. Same thing for the instructor. In this case, I don't have an instructor to assign. So when they say yes to a course offering and yes to the instructor for that course, they do so for the whole group. So as soon as SIO sends their schedule to summer session, then what will happen is this course offering will also get sent as part of the group that's linked with SIO 134. However, this one, BGGN 230, it's going to get sent on behalf of KEB. And so when summer session says yes or no to this, they'll say yes or no to the whole group of offerings. And then if a cross-enrolled course is being sent to summer session, there's this third attestation. And this is important because it's basically saying I am communicating with everyone who is included in my cross-listed classes or cross-enrolled classes. Again, the ISA is not meant to replace communicating with each other. It's not meant to replace letting everyone know what's going on, making sure that everyone's on the same page when you're cross-listed. You'll have to do all three attestations before you can send a summer session. Or to the summer session team. So that's important. And then the approval will come back again at a linked group level. So for these two cross-listed courses, and these two are cross-listed specifically, but these two cross-enrolled courses here that are being sent, they succeed or fail as a group, right? So make sure everyone's in communication with everyone else. Let me double check my notes here. Be right back. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is actually fairly complicated, is what happens when classes get new versions, right? When there's a new version of a class that comes through, or a new approval for a class that comes through. And I'm actually going to go ahead and bring up I have a graphic for this that I think will help. All right. When we were planning this out, we talked about divorce cases and marriage cases. So we're going to start with the divorce case, or this when you have a linked group that is split up in some way. So in this case, I say we have management, and these are fake courses. Well, they might have real courses that associate with them, but I'm not. These links are probably fake. So management 10, econ 10, and poly 10. Let's say this. These three are cross-listed in their current course approval with the fall 20 through, the end of time. And then what happens is that approval gets end-turned, right? And then a new set of approvals comes through for all three classes. So in this case, now only management 10 and econ 10 are linked and poly 10 is no longer linked. What the ISA is going to do is it's not going to destroy any data. So it's going to look at this. It's going to say, oh, this new approval has come in. These have been end-termed. I'm going to look for the new approval. If I see a new approval, then I'm going to move each of these individual ones over. But in this case, we want to preserve this linking, right? So we don't want to make it so that multiple copies now appear on both management, on Rady and econ schedules. So what it's going to do is it's going to maintain this group, and it's going to remove poly 10 from this group, but poly 10 is still going to have all the same scheduling information that this group had at the time of the split. Now, poly 10 may or may not want this offering. It's up to them to figure that out, but since they're no longer part of a group, they get to control their own destiny for whether or not they offer poly 10. These two groups, if, let's say if econ was the lead unit, then econ will still be the lead unit. If management was the lead unit, then management will be the lead unit. If poly was the lead unit, then this will be a group that doesn't have a lead unit assigned, and it'll show up with the crown with the question mark. Then it'll say, oh, hey, you need to assign a lead unit. But yeah, it's going to preserve information, basically. There's a couple other situations that can happen here with the divorce case. There's all these sort of possibilities where maybe not all the courses get a new version. So there's let's say management 10 and econ 10, they both get new versions that maintain the link, but poly 10 doesn't get a new version. It just gets end-turned. There's no longer a poly 10 after spring 23. Then what's going to happen is the ISA is still going to remove poly 10 from this group, but it's going to keep it there just in case maybe the course approval got delayed by a week, or got delayed by a month or something like that. It's not going to delete poly 10. Now poly can go in there and still delete the class, but that's up to them. But we're gonna preserve information. That's the default that the ISA is going to move towards. Let's say something went weird with the course approval and it did something incorrectly. So instead we have, this fall 20 to infinity, and this one now goes to fall 20, but it's not fall 23. So it no longer matches the version here. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to kick it out of the group because the new approvals only have these two linked. And it's just going to pull over whatever that approval is, even if that approval happens to be wrong. And then at whatever point a new approval comes through, gets processed through all the systems, and then shows up in the ISA, then then you'll just need to do a course reassignment on this. These are other cases. It's basically going to say, let's say some linked group still exists. Something went really sideways with the approvals. Again, the ISA is going to preserve as much as it's able to figure out based on, we match based on matching terms and within course approvals. So let's say there's still some matching terms, but 2 of the 3 got messed up. We're going to preserve everything, and then it's up to you, the department schedulers, to resolve those things manually. And we have a bunch of rules here that we've applied. This is all in the release notes, and I definitely encourage you all to check those release notes. And if there's any questions or if you run into any weird cases, let us know. We can always make sure that our logic is working properly, but we try to keep it as simple as possible, which is we're going to preserve information, and then if you don't need the class, then just delete the class, rather than make an assumption that, oh, in this case, we should just delete poly 10. We don't want to do that just in case. We'll let poly make that decision. We don't want a machine to make that decision. So those are all the divorce cases. There's this other case which is called the marriage case. So here, let's say we have these three classes and they are not linked in any way. And then a new approval comes through and says, oh, actually, we've end-termed these, but then we've created this link. So now these three classes are going to be married with file 23 forward. So what's going to happen then is for management, we're going to create a linked group. For econ, we're going to create a linked group. And for poly, we're going to create a linked group. And basically, when management creates a linked group, that's going to put management as the lead. And for econ, it's going to do the same thing. And for poly, it's going to do the same thing. And the reason we do this, instead of just creating one group from the three of these, is there's no good way for us to know for sure who is supposed to be lead. Because let's say econ went out, both econ and poly went, or econ, let's say econ and poly both went out to their instructors and got instructor scheduling preferences from them. And because they weren't sure if this approval was going to happen in time. So they went ahead and they were running ahead of things, getting ahead of their process, being proactive, getting that information. And then, oh, the approval came in time. So we're actually going to offer it as a cross-listed class. Well, we don't know who's actually going to be the lead then. Is it going to be econ or is it going to be poly? So if we were to make this assumption and say, nope, let's just group the three of these that exist, we would have to discard one set of ISP data effectively at random. And so instead, it's better for us to create three linked groups. And so what that means is management is going to have three linked groups, one of which they're going to be lead on, one of which econ is going to be the lead on, one of which poli-sci is going to be the lead on. And then the same thing, econ is going to have three groups, one of which they're the lead on, management is the lead on, poli-sci is the lead on. And it's up to the three units to talk about, oh, hey, this is the group we should keep. And then the other two units would just delete their groups that they're lead for. And that way, again, we want to preserve the ISP data. So that's a lot of information. And I imagine there are several things that may have come up as questions, perhaps nitty-gritty things along those lines. And so now what I want to do is I just want to make sure that we have a chance to do questions. So you're all welcome to ask any questions you have, any clarifications that you want me to demo something again, if you want to show me something specific on your schedule that you're like, oh, how do I handle this? This is your time. We've got about 10 minutes. And you've got me, you've got representatives from the ISA work group. I think we've got a couple people from the registrar's office. So we've got at least one person, I think, from, at least we did. I don't think we have anyone from summer session anymore. In any case, we've got people here. So ask your questions, please. We can use the raise hand feature, but if there's no questions, then I'm also happy to just say, take care, everyone. Yes, it's the sound of crickets.
Eric, I have a question. This is Jackie from Nano. When you said that when a course is approved, when you have a new course and it's approved again, are you talking about when it's an e-course and then we change something in the course and then it gets approved for a new version? Is that what you mean by new version?
Correct. Yeah. So we define a version of a course purely based on the approval. And right, we understand that the course approval can be anything from, we changed a prerequisite, which doesn't change anything with the structure of the course, to we changed it from being an LE to an SE instruction type, which is a structure change in the course, even though it doesn't really make a difference in terms of what the course structure looks like. A change in instruction type, or adding an instruction type, removing an instruction type, adding a linked unit, removing a linked unit or a linked class. So any of those changes, which requires where it goes through eCourse, Senate does its approval, and then, you get the notification that it's passed through eCourse, and then sometime, usually within the next week, it gets loaded into ISIS. Once it's loaded into ISIS, usually a day later, the ISA has that new version of the course. Whether it's a brand new course or, like I said, in most cases, it's going to be a new version of an existing course. And that change, again, could be structural, non-structural. But the ISA doesn't necessarily know. But we reassign those courses automatically now, as long as it matches. Well, basically, as long as the subject code, course number matches, and that there's not a 3-year gap between the last end term and the next start term of a course version, we'll do that matching. That's something we released, I think, last year as well. We did the automatic course reassignment because we knew we would need to have it once we got deeper into the scheduling process. So Carrie, you have a question?
So Eric, can I just finish? So,
Oh,
so
sure.
the only time we would have an issue is if it's cross-listed, right? So if we change something, like we were correcting something in our course listing in eCourse, and it was a cross-listed course, then that's where it might cause issues, right? Because then it might break the link between our cross-listed courses.
It shouldn't break a link because so if you have a cross-listed course, and right, because that course approval is all of the courses are go together.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
So as long as there's no adding or dropping of a unit within that, then the ISA is just gonna automatically update the course version for the whole group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So Carrie's question is, can I go over really quick the first step of creating a class and adding a cross list? So creating a class is going to happen exactly the same as you do right now. So you're going to go to, if you're just creating it manually, you're going to be in the ASB. I'm going to go to current working year really quick. All right, and I'm going to go only cross listed. So if I'm going to add a class, then all I need to do is just hop in here, click on add class, select my stuff here, and then the additional step I have to do is select the lead unit. I'm not able to create the class without selecting the lead unit. That's the only difference with something that's cross-listed or conjoined. Again, we're not supporting co-scheduled yet within the ISA because of the extra complexity. So here I know Neuro, like I'm bio, but I happen to know Neuro is going to be the one who's going to lead this group. So I'll select Neuro, I'll click on create class. And there we go. So that's the most basic way. You can also, if you use copy schedule, it will also, even if you're copying something that previously didn't have this linking, when it creates the new version, anytime the ISA is creating a copy or creating a class that is part of a linked course approval, or like that is cross enrolled according to the course approval, it's going to create the whole group instead of just your class. Any other questions? I know we covered a lot, so if you do think of anything, you're always welcome to drop us a question at ISA-help or ISA-help@ucsd.edu that creates a ticket for our team. Even if it's, hey, can you help me with this, situation I got where something's really complicated on my schedule or I'm really struggling, then either myself or one of your college's representative from your school's representative from the ISA work group will reach out and schedule some time with you. If all else fails, you can email me directly, but I always recommend doing ISA help instead, because it creates a ticket, which means my whole team sees it rather than just me. But yeah, we want to help. We want to make sure you're successful in getting your schedules done, and we're wanting to make sure that we continue to add features into the ISA that allow you to do so quickly and effectively and with, less pain than, before, even though there may still be a little bit of pain along the way with the whole process. All right, well, in that case, thank you, everyone. Take care, and this recording will be up probably in a couple days, and I'll send out an announcement with a link to the recording to everyone for your viewing pleasure, or if you want to share it with any colleagues. Take care and have a wonderful afternoon.